the Megacast, an hour-long TV and radio streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. Good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depressing stuff.
That's what white people think. You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you.
I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always learn more about our program, keep up to date with us and all of our partnering stations that include live local information and programming in your communities all throughout the week on civiccentertv.com/megacast. That's where you'll find links to all of our partnering stations joining us both live in places like Waterford on the Media Network of Waterford and live to tape in northern Oakland County on the Orion Neighborhood Television in Lake Orion and Orion Township, as well as in Birmingham on Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You'll also find all of our full episodes and each individual segment on demand on civiccentertv.com/megacast. Another great resource for you each and every day on our website is our local news page on civiccentertv.com, where we'll post links to each and every one of our top stories making headlines every single morning as we begin this program Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. live, and so you can follow along with us if you're watching or listening to this program later on from the comfort of your home or out and about throughout our community. Our top story this morning comes from Maisha Johnson at the Detroit News. After thunderstorms ranging from moderate to severe all throughout lower Michigan came through on Sunday, here in southeastern Michigan, about 78,000 DTE Energy and Consumers Energy customers are without power following the evening of torrential downpour and severely high winds. Following the Sunday storms, DTE Energy reported about 73,100 of its customers were without power. That is as of 6 a.m. this morning, with Consumers Energy also reporting about 7,525 customers are without power as of 6:30 on Monday morning. The largest number of outages per the DTE outage map this morning were shown as being in and just outside of the city of Detroit, as well as in the Ann Arbor area. Again, customers doesn't necessarily mean people that are without power. That's simply one house or one entity to another that might be without power at this time. 73,100 people from DTE, 7,525 or just around 78,000 people in Metro Detroit, 78,000 customers in Metro Detroit could mean hundreds of thousands of people at this time impacted by power outages as a result of these storms last night. Extensive damage in some places, minor damage as a result of the storms in other places, and that, of course, as as branches fall onto power lines or as winds impact the power lines in other ways by moving them around and shifting them around and causing either some shortages that then knock out a breaker or may knock out a transformer around the community. That could cause power outages that could be a few hours or be for several hours or even a day, depending on how long it does take crews to get out and about. DTE and Consumers Energy are actively responding to these power outages as we speak. Some areas of southeastern Michigan were only swiped by the storm, including my location here in western Oakland County in the Wixom and Novi area, where severe weather patterns were a near miss for the most part, nothing more than maybe some moderate rain and a little bit of higher than normal wind patterns with a brief period of power blips around 6:30 p.m. on Sunday night. But for some, winds reached upwards of 70 miles per hour with gusts paralleling that of a tropical storm or a small-scale hurricane. Even some areas were reportedly hit by what are being called, quote-unquote, gustnadoes, a smaller, brief pattern of rotation in the atmosphere that is weaker than the normal supercell tornado that is often seen in those sort of weather patterns. Just the threat of the storm had many communities making arrangements long before the storms even came in on Sunday, with Livonia ending its Livonia Spree 73 due to a tornado watch and possible high winds in the area over the weekend, ending the festival hours before its scheduled conclusion and canceling its usual fireworks display as a result of the storm. And here in Oakland County, just a few blocks away from me here on the western side of the county, the storm system caused a brief power outage at the Suburban Collection Showplace, where former President Donald J. Trump was expected to appear and speak at the Oakland County GOP's Lincoln Day dinner, in which he was set to receive their Man of the Decade honors. Storms are expected to continue in the early portions of this week, with rain showers both today and scattered showers throughout the day on Tuesday. The Great Lakes Water Authority, or GLEWA, is also warning and it began warning on Sunday of potential flooding, but stated that its water system, quote, currently has the capacity to handle the expected flows into the system. So power outages all throughout Oakland County, all throughout southeastern Michigan at this time. Again, as of 6:30 this morning, the estimates from both DTE Energy and Consumers Energy total out at about 78,000 customers without power. If you do see a downed power line, do not approach the power line. Get as far away from it as you possibly can. Warn your local authorities as well as DTE and Consumers Energy so that they can get on the scene as soon as possible and address those downed power lines. Those can be extremely dangerous, especially if they're around puddles or around other water sources or pooling of water that is also possible throughout our local area at this time. And again, you can always stay up to date with us and other news sources from across our local community in order to get updates on the power outages. The DTE Energy power outage map is also available online. Same with Consumers Energy. If you follow along to their websites, you'll be able to get more information, and those are linked in this article from our friends at the Detroit News this morning on our local news page. Additionally, making news this morning from the Detroit News on our local news page, Shantae Lewis writes, just after our show on Friday as well as on Saturday in Detroit, history was commemorated on the 60th anniversary of a visit to the city from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., where he made the first of his many showings of his soon-to-be iconic at that time I Have a Dream speeches downtown. Hundreds gathered downtown on Saturday to celebrate the anniversary with a march reenacting the civil rights movement from decades ago, and one attendee told the Detroit News she was there in 1963 to march and for the speech, and said, quote, "We wouldn't be where we are today without Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A lot of people don't know that." And closed quote. The event was hosted by the Detroit branch of the NAACP, preceded on Friday by the unveiling of a statue of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. giving a speech in Hart Plaza, where his speech will be forever commemorated by this monument. On social media, the Detroit News' Sarah Rahal caught the moment early Friday afternoon. We should have a link to that video. Jared, if you can show that for us now, and we'll take a look at the unveiling of the statue in Detroit from Friday. This was before the event with the march on Saturday, all commemorating the 60th anniversary of this speech from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In just a moment here, we'll have that video pulled up for you. Here we go. The statue will stand in Hart Plaza in downtown Detroit. You'll be able to see that there forevermore. One of the first places that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave that iconic I Have a Dream speech that was so key to the civil rights movement in the 1960s. This was the 60th anniversary of that speech in downtown Detroit. You see even in that image Mayor Mike Duggan down there, as well as many others representative of the city of Detroit, local, state, and federal government members also on site at the event on Friday. Many dignitaries also attended the event in addition to Mayor Duggan, including Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist II, as well as U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib, who hopes the event will remind the people of the local area what Dr. King did to advocate for freedom and for the less fortunate, saying in a speech downtown over the weekend, quote, "I just hope that we are reminded what Dr. King was actually marching for, and at the end, he was marching for true liberation, which is so connected to poverty in our country," and closed quote. That full article from the Detroit News is linked on our local news page this morning on civiccentertv.com. You can also go to social media, go to Twitter to see that video again that was posted posted over the weekend by Sarah Rahal from the Detroit News. You can follow her on Twitter. That is at Sarah Rahal, SARAHRAHAL _ at Sarah Rahal _ on Twitter. She is with the Detroit News and had that video you saw this morning, or you're seeing on demand on civiccentertv.com/megacast. In addition, making headlines this morning on our local news page from the Detroit Free Press's Grayson Steele. If you're out and about in one of Michigan's fine cities across the Lower Peninsula on Tuesday, you may get a chance to take a look at a rare sight of a Michigan Air National Guard flyover as part of the U.S. Air Force's celebration of a century of in-air refueling. The Michigan Air National Guard will conduct a statewide flyover at about 10:20 a.m. on Tuesday and running until all the way back to Selfridge Air National Guard base in Harrison Township, where they'll land and terminate that particular flyover at about 12:30 p.m. The flyover will cover many populous and landmark areas of the Great Lakes State, beginning by the Blue Water Bridge in Port Huron after the airplanes leave Selfridge Air Base, just across from their neighbors in Sarnia, Ontario, by the Blue Water Bridge near the Canadian border, and then pass over the mighty Mac and Mackinac City later on in the morning before making its way to Sleeping Bear Dunes. Then, around 11:45 a.m., downtown Grand Rapids will witness the flyover, followed by their friends at the Battle Creek National Guard Air Base, and then it's on to the Capitol in Lansing, where they are expected to arrive about 12:05 p.m. In that flyover, then venturing to downtown Detroit on the Detroit River about 12:30, and then heading back to Selfridge Air Base to land and return to their regular daily work at the air base. The flyovers will feature K-135 Strato tankers in formation with A-10 Thunderbolt IIs, operated by airmen with the 127th Wing, a group of about 1,700 both military and civilian personnel. Similar flyovers also will be happening all throughout the United States near Air Force bases across the nation on Tuesday in commemoration of this event. Why tomorrow of all days? It is the exact 100-year anniversary of the first aerial refueling, which took place on June 27th of 1923 between Los Angeles and San Diego on the West Coast. The 127th Wing's first aerial refueling came just 84 years later in September of 2007. That's right, 2007 was 16 years ago. And now they're going to do a flyover all across the state of Michigan to commemorate the ability to stay in flight with many of our different aircraft across our armed services in the United States. That's been possible for over 100 years now at this point as of Tuesday. That flyover, again, will begin right around 10:20 a.m. will be the first location they fly over from the Air National Guard base. The first flyover location on their trip is going to be right around the Blue Water Bridge in Port Huron. They'll venture up around northern Michigan, then around west Michigan, back through the capital region of the state toward Metro Detroit, and then head back to the Selfridge Air National Guard base to finish that all up. A full timeline can be found in this article from our friends at the Detroit Free Press this morning, linked on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. Click on the headline, click on the picture with the logo of the 127th wing of the Michigan Air National Guard, or on the link at the bottom of what we have posted on our website that says click here to find more information and find a full map of tomorrow's flyover. civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Also making news this morning on our local news page from the Oakland Press's Mike McConnell. Sadly, the end of an era is nigh in Oak Park, where the Star Bakery on Coolidge Highway will be closing its doors later this week on July 2nd. That is going to be on Friday, July 2nd. Sorry, Saturday. Sunday. I'm looking at the wrong month. My apologies. I looked at the calendar, pulled it up to make sure I had it right, and had it. And third time's the charm. Sunday of this week, July 2nd, is when the Star Bakery on Coolidge Highway in Oak Park will close after 108 years of service to our local community. Here in West Bloomfield Township, one of the sister locations of Star Bakery, the Diamond Bakery, will remain open and continue to sell many of the favorites from the beloved Oak Park staples such as challah, rye, and Mandel breads, among other products. Oak Park Mayor Marion McClellan praised Star Bakery for its over a century of service, noting the generations of local families that came to the city for its food, saying, quote, "It was a neighborhood tradition for generations. People are heartbroken. We truly miss Stacy Fox and wish her the best," end closed quote. Stacy Fox, one of the many owners of the Star Bakery at this time. Another owner of the bakery, Daniel Buckfire, who said that the bakery, which originally opened in 1915, will be closing for a number of different reasons, but most certainly because of economic reasons, saying they can no longer compete with the big companies wholesaling them essentially out of business altogether. Telling the Oakland Press, quote, "It was a very hard decision to close, and we did everything we could to try and save Star Bakery and make it profitable. Wholesale was always a significant part of the business, and we determined that we were no longer competitive on this side of the business," and closed quote. The bakery ownership said some will lose their jobs, unfortunately, as a result of the closure, but that they do hope to transfer some of their employees to the Diamond Bakery in West Bloomfield, as well as other restaurants owned by this group or by individual owners of the Star Bakery in places such as Birmingham. So hopefully most of the people that are currently working at the Star Bakery and will continue to work at the Star Bakery in Oak Park will have another job opportunity in our local area after Sunday, when the Star Bakery closes after 108 years of service to our community. The end of an era comes as a very somber note for those in Oak Park, as Mayor McClellan told the Oakland Press. To some of the community, quote, "It feels like they are talking about a death in the family," and closed quote. A traditional location for people to enjoy many different great local and tasty foods in Oak Park, coming to a close on Sunday, July 2nd, the final day of operations at the Star Bakery, as we said earlier on, and as is noted in this article from the Oakland Press. One of its sister restaurants, the Diamond Bakery in West Bloomfield, will remain open and will feature many of the products that were typically seen in Oak Park. Other businesses that are associated with this ownership group do also plan to remain open and may feature some of these different delicacies from the Star Bakery in Oak Park as well. You can get even more details about the Star Bakery, about its closure, and what's going to happen with the business, why it's closing down, all the details you need to know and the full context of the story by clicking through this article from our friends at the Oakland Press today on our local news page, civiccentertv.com. Finally, making headlines on our local news page this morning from Brendan Lozinski at the Troy Times from CNG News. History being made here in Oakland County recently as Olivia Lulu George and Maggie Pulte from Troy became two of the first girls to earn the honor of Eagle Scout through the Boy Scouts of America. This is a huge accomplishment for the girls, joining a small percentage of all scouts who do eventually achieve the rank of Eagle, but even more rare at this stage, with the Boy Scouts of America only permitting girls to join local chapters, or troops as they call it, just over the last several years. As required, each Eagle candidate must complete a final community service project as part of their application to become an Eagle Scout. For Lulu George, that was creating so-called blessing bags for the homeless in partnership with many Catholic charities in Metro Detroit, putting essentials into these bags such as socks, underwear, water, soap, other sanitary products, and more, and making kits both specialized for women and for men. Pulte completed her project with the Bloomfield Fire Department and a group called the Stop the Bleed group, in closed quote, making tourniquets and helping lead community training sessions both at her school and within her Boy Scouts troop. Pulte says this is an accomplishment that makes her feel very proud of herself, telling the Troy Times, quote, "There was a lot of work to do and a lot behind it, but it is truly an honor. But I couldn't do it without everyone in my group who helped me throughout this journey," and closed quote. It was a similar sentiment held by Lulu George, who said, quote, "This is very rare. Boys becoming Eagle Scouts is less than 1% of Scouts, so it's obviously even less for girls, since so little time has passed for girls to achieve this," and closed quote. And on that note, what's even more impressive about these two girls achieving Eagle Scout is the timeline in which the girls completed these requirements. As was noted earlier on, it's only been a few years since the Boy Scouts of America started permitting girls into local troops. It's only been 4 years that they've even been allowed to join the Scouts, and as they both have approached their 18th birthday, which is the deadline to complete your Eagle Scout altogether, including your project, including your board of review, and to be designated as an Eagle Scout, they had just about that much time, 4 years, to get to the rank of Eagle, something very few, myself included, who have been involved in scouting have been able to do, with even more years available to them, making this that much more of an impressive feat for Lulu George as well as Maggie Pulte. Troop leader Debbie Now said that overall, George and Pulte's story is a lesson in what young people can learn by participating in scouting. In addition, Pulte gave advice to aspiring Eagle Scouts, young and old, by telling the Troy Times, quote, "My advice would be to stick with it, to stay on top of things, and to get your requirements done early so you can focus on doing what you enjoy and getting to the experience the wide variety of opportunities that scouting has to offer." Everyone was very welcoming, and I got to do it with Lulu. There are a lot of skills you learn through scouts that people should learn, not just the boys, and closed quote. A really, really good story from the Troy Times from CNG News. It's one of many local newspapers that are throughout the Oakland County and southeastern Michigan region that focus on stories right here in our local area. There's one in our flagship area in West Bloomfield called the West Bloomfield Beacon. This is from the Troy Times out on the eastern side of Oakland County with this great story. I highly encourage you to read through it and get even more details on this incredible feat that is completed in just a few years by Lulu George and Maggie Pulte, two students out of Troy, becoming two of the first girls to achieve the honor of Eagle Scout through the Boy Scouts of America. All of those headlines are making news this morning on our local news page today, civiccentertv.com. You can click through each and every one of them, read even more about these different stories, get additional details from other articles that have been written in relation to these stories. And as always, if you have the means to do so, we would highly encourage you to subscribe to these local publications and support journalism in our local community. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, we know how much eating a healthy diet can help extend your life and your quality of life. But what about that for your pets? Dr. Jill Tack, the owner of Pet Beastro, joins us next to talk about that and more. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick.
The virus will die.
It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer.
Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine.
To keep safe and strong.
Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
it's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
what's happening around you. Hear about state events, businesses, and from the people behind them on the Megacast, an hour-long TV, radio, and streaming show keeping you informed on the day-to-day news. Listen in on talks with volunteer groups, documentarians, and financial advisors, Monday to Friday with your host, Tyler Kieft. Catch the Megacast weekdays from 10 a.m. to 11 on Civic Center TV, 89.3 Lakes FM, and streaming on MyMyTV.com.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us and find our full shows and each individual interview on demand, so you can watch us either live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. all throughout our local communities, or find us online on your time on civiccentertv.com/megacast. That's also the place to find more information on many community television and radio stations serving your local communities here in Oakland County, as well as all their other original programming all about your hometown. civiccentertv.com/megacast is the place to go for all of that information. Joining us now on the Megacast is a board-certified naturopathic doctor who has earned a reputation in the Metro Detroit area as a leading expert on natural and alternative health. She's also the owner and the founder of Pet Beastro. Dr. Jill Tack joins us now on the Megacast. Dr. Tack, thank you so much for being with us today.
Of course. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk to us about your pet store here. It's called the Pet Beastro here in our local area, and you run things a little bit differently than maybe other pet stores might do on a traditional sense, really focusing on alternative and natural food options for our local pets. So tell us about Pet Beastro, what we should know about what makes your store stand out in Madison Heights.
Yeah, of course. So our original location is in Madison Heights, and I started the Pet Bistro based on some of my own pets' health complaints and issues. So I actually learned about some of these different raw feeding and feeding fresh food ideas a long, long time ago. I had a childhood dog, Yorkie, named Max, and while I was away at college, my parents found out that he had cancer. And they decided to take some alternative routes with him instead of doing conventional medication such as chemo and radiation, which, you know, there's a time and place for everything, but that was the route that my parents had decided upon. And they switched his diet to a raw diet, and we did some natural remedies with him, which extended his life greatly, more than our veterinarian actually thought that he would live. So that kind of catapulted me into learning more about pets and raw feeding. So I actually am a graphic designer by trade. I went to school for graphic design, came home from college and got a job in my trade. And then I got my first dog of my own, which was my husky, who was a big teaching experience for me. She taught me many, many lessons. And I started raw feeding her when she had health complaints. So that really got me in the mindset of helping pets naturally, which then just from there built on that. And here we are today.
So Pet Bistro, like many different pet stores throughout our local area, over the last several years, pet stores have had to kind of shift from being simply where you pick up food or other items that are needed on a day-to-day basis for your pets to being also including many services that help to benefit the pets as well. So what are some of the additional services beyond, of course, selling natural foods for pets and other items that you provide to the community?
Absolutely, of course. So as my journey expanded, I actually studied under Dr. Glenn Dupree, who is a homeopathic veterinarian out of Louisiana. From there, I went to naturopathic school and learned a lot of its human application. There's more available now about how to apply that to pets. So I really extrapolated a lot of the information I learned from Dr. Dupree and naturopathic school to help pets. So I do nutrition counseling as well as just overall naturopathic services for pets. We do have advanced animal chiropractic that sees clients out of our spaces as well, so chiropractic care. And then we are hoping to add a couple new services here at the Warren location as well. Just aren't ready to announce those yet because we're still in some talks with folks, but we're looking to add some more naturopathic services as well.
Especially for dog owners, this is a time of the year where, especially in Michigan, they're really focusing on the activity of their pet, getting outside, getting them moving around, maybe helping them take some of the winter weight off that can also have, much like with us humans, have some other health effects that are more negative. But in terms of the food that you're offering, we know that over the last several years, there's been more and more information that's come out about how natural eating or more natural food-based products for pets can be really beneficial to extending their life in the long term. Can you talk about how that has changed over the last several years and just what, and elaborate a little bit on just how much of a benefit these alternative means, these more natural-based foods can actually have on the overall health of our pets?
Of course. So I think we hear this also in our human space too. They tell you to shop the perimeter of the grocery store, right? Or the produce section. And a lot of it has to do, that's very similar to our pets, except we don't have a produce selection per se in our store. So we actually have our raw food selection, and we really encourage pet owners to add some sort of moisture to their diet, or we call them hydrators, toppers, any way. Even at home, you could add some fresh vegetables. You could add a cracked egg on top of their meal. Anything that you can do to add some fresh food in does reduce chronic disease later on in life. So many of our pets end up with inflammatory diseases or cancers or, something more deep-seated and chronic. So anything you can do to prevent that is always beneficial. The one thing that we really focus on here at the Pet Bistro is we vet all of our companies. I want to know where the ingredients come from. We want to know where the sourcing of the protein comes from and the transparency of it. That is really important to us. And you don't always get that with some of these national brands because they're using it, sadly, as a conjunction to their what's left over maybe from manufacturing on their human food side. And processed food. It's a lot of really processed food. So how can you reduce the carbohydrates? How can you increase something fresh into your pet's bowl? That's very, very important. And that's really what we focus on here. We really also pay attention to each dog or cat individually, which, my favorite question is people come in and say, well, what's your best dog food? And I don't like answering that because I also want to know a little bit more about your pet. If I say chicken, chicken is the best dog food and your dog is allergic to chicken, I'm not doing you any service. I want to know more about your pet's individual concerns and health complaints to make sure that we offer something that would match what you need for your pet. So we really take an individualized approach to each pet too, but for sure adding some sort of fresh food. I think that's mandatory at this point in our life.
For people that may not be familiar with what goes into traditional or pet food that comes from these bigger companies that we're often seeing in our grocery stores or in our big chain pet stores and so on and so forth, you mentioned that some of the sources, particularly for protein, are things that are offset from their human food production or may come from other means that are not so transparent in how they're tracked. But often, what are some of the bad things that we do see in some of these mass-produced pet foods that we're often seeing on the shelves in stores and in those big box stores as well?
Of course. So the main thing is a high carbohydrate load. And many times they're using corn, wheat, and soy to make that happen because it's an inexpensive way to get protein into the diet. And an inexpensive filler. So if we have that, usually that's when we start seeing digestive issues with our pets. Ingredients such as BHT and ethioxyquin, some of these are chemical preservatives that are known to cause cancer. So reducing some of those chemical preservatives, even the dyes, there's a lot of synthetic dyes, Kibbles and Bits, and some of these companies make their pieces look appealing by adding food coloring, which is not always the healthiest option. Sometimes, budget-wise, that's what's affordable at the time, but could you still take that food and still add a pet-safe bone broth, or could you add some pumpkin or fresh veggies on top of it to actually elevate what's in your dog's bowl? Those are all ways to actually kind of combat that. But we always like, to educate our customers, look at the ingredients. Can you read all the ingredients? Do you understand what they are? Because a lot of times they put, the further down the ingredient deck you get in the list, the more there's chemicals in there that you can't understand what they are. You need a dictionary or Google to figure out what it is. And when you get into that territory, that's when we start questioning, is this the best food? Is this going to give your dog longevity and health for the remainder of their life?
And how does that relate also to other products that we also have in our pets' lives, whether it be toys for our dogs and our cats, or beds, or if we're thinking about our cats, I'm thinking about my 2 cats over here just hanging out on a shelf at the moment, and their cat litter. How does that maybe apply to those products as well that also can have an effect on their health and on ours?
You're so right on that. I mean, just environmentally, if we're using chemical air fresheners, that can be detrimental. Our cats and dogs are very sensitive, and we don't always realize how sensitive they are. Even if your neighbors are spraying lawn chemicals, maybe you don't do that because you have a natural yard. But if you see them out in the neighborhood, shut the windows for the day. Try and keep that stuff out of the environment to protect your cat and dogs, their respiratory health, their overall health. If you go on a walk and you see there's a bunch of granules on the sidewalk, maybe they need a quick foot washing when you get home. But you're absolutely right. All of those things do make a difference. Even clean drinking water. I know that sounds silly, but nowadays our tap water isn't always the cleanest drinking water. There's a lot of chemicals in there that filter it and make it look pretty and clear, but sometimes we even need to do clean drinking water to help. We do have all natural flea and tick options. So if you're not into putting the chemicals on your pet once a month, there's something like that we can help with. We do have natural soy candles that we promote. So you really have to kind of do an assessment of your whole environment. And it improves your health too, right? It's not just your cat and dog, but it improves everybody in the house. So we really encourage everyone to take a look around.
Their website is thepetbeastro.com. That is thepet, BEASTRO.com. You can also call them 877-434-3436, 877-434-3436, or send them an email, info@thepetbistro.com. Find them currently in Madison Heights on John R. Road, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 8. And Sunday, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Joining us on the program is the owner and the founder of the Pet Beastro, Dr. Jill Tack, on today's edition of the Megacast. Dr. Tack, in addition to your Madison Heights store, you mentioned earlier on, kind of teased it, you're also opening another location very soon in Warren.
Yes, we are. We're super excited about this. It's been a long time coming, and we're just about there. A little bit more inventory to bring in this week. And of course we have all of our fun party planned. So I don't know if we should introduce that now or if you have more questions.
Go ahead and introduce that. Yeah. So if people want to mark their calendars, we do have come on down, check out our store.
Yeah. So we have a ribbon cutting this Wednesday, June 28th at 1 p.m. Anybody's welcome to come for that. We're hoping to have kind of like a soft opening this coming weekend. We'll make an announcement when we're ready to roll. And then July 7th, 8th, and 9th is our grand opening weekend. We're super excited about that. We're going to have some demo reps here. The Warren Canine officers are going to be here doing demonstrations as well. We'll have a food truck on Saturday. We have goodie bags with purchase for the first 300 people. That's about a $50 value. So we're super excited about that. Overall, for the month of July, we have about $30,000 in prizes to give away. So we have a couple main grand prizes. One for dog is winning a freezer with 3 months of free food. For cats, we have a 7-foot tall cat tree with about $100 worth of Stella and Chewy's cat food that goes with it. Those are our 2 main prizes. And then we have different ways to win 3 months of free food, a $200 raffle goodie bag, delivery services for a year. So lots of really, really great prizes for the month of July that we're super excited about.
More information can be found on their website, thepetbeastro.com, thepetbeastro.com. You can also learn more about their opening of their Warren location. Keep up to date with them on social media, on Facebook at The Pet Bistro, on Twitter at The Pet Bistro, as well as on Instagram at The Pet Bistro. More information can be found again on their website, thepetbistro.com. Joining us on the program today is the owner and the founder of the Pet Beastro, Dr. Jill Tack, on today's Megacast. Dr. Tack, a couple more minutes with you. Anything else that we haven't talked about your store, about the services that you're providing, or about taking a more natural approach to your pet's health that would be important for our audience to know?
I really think it just comes down to a mindset and understanding. A lot of pets, once they start, pet owners start adding natural food and finding and discovering things that their pets really like, they come back for more because they realize their pets really enjoy their meal at that point. Cats too, we tend to forget about our kitty cats. Cats do really well with adding moisture to their diet, especially cats that are prone to urinary issues. That is a huge problem for our feline friends. So anytime we can add something, canned food, it's always a great option because it's high in moisture. Again, any of the products in the freezer, goat milk, bone broth, kitties can have that too. The one thing that we're kind of excited about being in Warren is we do actually support the 4 Warren canine officers. So we actually feed about 12 different canine officers in Oakland and Macomb County, 4 of them being the Warren canine officers. So we actually do a free feeding program for them along with natural health services. So we support them fully in any way that we can to make sure that their dogs are running and working to the best of their ability. So we're really excited to be in Warren. I'm also a Warren resident, so I'm kind of excited to be here in my hometown, having our store open up. We do have a lot of our customers come from this area, so we've got some great responses so far from our customer base that are excited to be over here. We actually deliver to all of Oakland and Macomb County, so we have same-day delivery. If you order by 11 a.m. on our website, our delivery truck goes out every day, Monday through Saturday. So we do have quite a few customers that we know from our database that come from this area, but we actually deliver all over. We go from basically Canton to Chesterfield, from Waterford to Grosse Pointe. So we have quite a large delivery area. If you are looking on our website and can't make it to Madison Heights anytime soon, we'll deliver right to your door. So you'll see our bistro van pull up to your door, and Catherine is our delivery driver and our shipping sales associate. So she is the one that does deliveries most of the days. But you might also see Lewis in the van, or Josephine, or Maddie. So we have quite a few of us that can go out and do deliveries in your neighborhood. So we're excited about that.
More information about the products and their services can be found on thepetbeastro.com. Dr. Tack, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thepetbeastro.com, beast with an E-A-S-T. So it's the pet, BAEASTRO.com for more information, or call them 877-434-3436. We'll take a break on the Megacast. On the other side, one of the hundreds of artists that will be joining us very soon, just a few weeks away, in downtown Ann Arbor, across 30 blocks of the city. 3 art shows all in one at the Ann Arbor Art Fair coming up in late July. We'll talk to a couple of the artists that will be there with you and with us coming up next on the Megacast.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling.
Wake up, Greater West Bloomfield. Start your mornings with The Splash and tune in for The Splash Live. Get acquainted with people, places, and activities that are live, local, and for you. First thing in the morning, weekdays at 9:30 a.m. on our Civic Center TV YouTube page, or watch us live at Civic Center TV or on Facebook. The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live update show.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID. We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV. Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road. My Michigan TV is streaming everywhere on Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV, and more smart TV apps. My Michigan TV is on your phone too. Take us with you wherever you go. Just search for My Michigan TV on your favorite app store or visit mymitv.com. All Michigan, streaming everywhere. My Michigan TV.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us on civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you'll find links to all of our partnering stations joining us live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. for our live broadcast, live to tape on delay and throughout our county in places like Orion Township and Lake Orion on ONTV, as well as in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and places you can find us all throughout the state of Michigan, live and on demand, anytime, anywhere, as well as other original programming from the state of Michigan, all about the state of Michigan from our partners such as My Michigan TV. civiccentertv.com/Megacast, the place to go for all of that. Joining us now is one of the hundreds upon hundreds of artists that you will see at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair. Actually, two of them, both Jen and Kenneth Kudulis, are scenic painters and digital artists joining us on today's edition of the Megacast as they get ready to come into town in late July for the Ann Arbor Art Fair. Jen, Kenny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Yeah, glad to have you on. So what you do is you're a digital artist and a scenic painter, but a lot of these paintings, I understand, you're creating through digital means. So tell us about your art and how you're creating what we're going to see with the two of you in Ann Arbor in July.
Yeah, well, the body work behind me is created digitally, so it's all drawn by hand on the screen of my iPad. So it's just thousands of marks, like dozens of layers, and it's creating something that's really super colorful and it's vibrant and it's fun. But yeah, it's all created digitally. I have a background in painting, like you said, the scenic art, and I did that forever. Actually, we both have a background in theater, but I did the scenic art, she did the acting. But yeah, that's what I do.
So you both have a background in the arts, particularly in the performing arts. So tell us about your journey to then getting into more of the physical art like we're seeing now, or digital art as you're creating, and we'll see at the Ann Arbor Art Fair.
Yeah, go ahead, babe.
You know, the journey's been so long since we started to where we are now. It's kind of hard to remember, honestly. It's
I think this is year 17.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we started about I started hustling on the streets. Actually, both of us. Mm-hmm. We set up down in Union Square and on the High Line, various parts all over New York City, setting up my little cart, you know, slinging my art. That's I decided not to go to SCAD, Spanish School of Art and Design, to get my MFA, I decided, hey, let's hustle on the street and figure this out. So we did that for 5 or 6 years, both of us.
Yeah, I think when you talk to your customers directly, I think that you can learn a lot, what they like, you'll learn what they don't like, and then also really just how to talk to people about your artwork, which is really, we spend a lot of time in the studio behind the scenes sort of prepping for these shows for months on end. And, it's really important that we kind of convey what we have been working on this whole time to people there in the booth, and also like just letting them experience it as well, making sure that they are connecting with something. And
Please go ahead. Sorry.
I would say just making sure that they're just connecting with the work in general, and basically just making sure that we can facilitate that.
With your backgrounds in theater production and in acting and understanding how to build an audience, how to interact with an audience, and then also that history of, as you said, Kenny, hustling on the streets of New York initially in this part of your careers as artists, how does that then add into the dynamic that you often have at these art shows, and then provide even further inspiration or further motivation for creating art as you're going to art shows all over the country?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. So the journey in between, we get to go to, I'm influenced by the national parks and hiking and getting outside. But it's also, you find cool places in and around the cities we, explore, because people give us the heads up. So going to Ann Arbor, we'll meet people, hey, go check out this spot, go check this spot. It's awesome. And that happens in every city. People are great that way. And it just further fuels our need to see everything.
Yeah, I think once we started traveling, we got outside of New York. New York is it's amazing because there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But then once you get out of it, then you start to see and experience different things, and those things ultimately influence your daily life, which ultimately influences your artwork as well. So definitely where we started and where we are now has definitely been a big growth. For sure.
What are some other places that you draw inspiration from your pieces from? How does your life outside of being an artist influence your life as an artist?
Oh,
they're one and the
same. Yeah,
there's no separation.
Yeah, I mean, I could just be walking down the street with my dogs and see a cardinal fly or something. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Let's do a drawing of there. A couple years back, we went to South Africa, and that's where my mind was exploded, because we went on safari and saw all these amazing animals. And it's just it's different than seeing them in the zoo. They're out there doing their thing in real life, and it's hey, if I step out of this car, this thing's gonna take my arm off. There's something about a series of respect there, and I don't know, was the beginning of all the work I'm doing now, was doing that, seeing that.
I think also a lot of people are where does it come from, or how long does it take? And I think that some things, sure, you could see something or experience something, such as music, or, going out and going to an art show, for instance, and you might be inspired instantly. But for a lot of times, for me, it's really something that takes months of kind of just sitting on something, and then layers of seeing other things and experiencing things, and then finally something that's kind of been rolling around in my head will it's like puzzle pieces kind of going together, and then you're oh, I see it now. And then it's oh, well, why am I seeing this? It's you can see all these individual places that you pulled experience from. It's sort of if you say have a crazy dream, and you're why was I riding a bicycle with a walrus? Maybe you saw a walrus on an advertisement a month ago, and then maybe you were thinking about riding a bicycle 2 weeks ago. Ultimately it kind of just, it pops up in your head in really weird times sometimes.
You can find more information about Jen and Kenny's art by visiting their website, alongthelines.art. Alongthelines.art. That also is their social media handle on Instagram, instagram.com/alongthelines.art, to find even more information about their art and look at some of the collection that you'll see in Ann Arbor with Jen and Kenny at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair, beginning Thursday, July 20th and running through Saturday, July 22nd. With more information on the Ann Arbor Art Fair, Kenny, Jen, knowing some digital artists myself, I have a bit of familiarity with some of the process that they go through to create these digital paintings. But for those that aren't familiar with this form of painting, how is it similar to a traditional painting, given that, as we can clearly see from the image behind you, or you'll be able to see on the image behind them on civiccentertv.com later on today, there is a lot of detail that goes into this still.
Yeah, 100%. I attack it and create it the same way you would layer up like a watercolor and acrylic. Like you start the same way you do a blank white canvas, you start with a blank white screen. And you have to sit there and sketch it, get your shape and what your composition is going to be. So say the hummingbirds behind me, I draw the hummingbirds first. All right, great, I get the pattern there. And then what world are they going to live in? So I pick out the flora, the flowers, the hibiscus, and I just layer those up until it's kind of amazing that you can tweak and create all your own brushes digitally to give this really awesome effect, like a painterly style. And it took a while to kind of figure out, but yeah, it's really exciting. I like it because you can make it and create it on the road, because we're on the road a lot, like 8 months out of the year. So it's very nice. Instead of slamming 2 weeks of work in a traditional painting, I can create anytime, anywhere, as long as I have a charge on my iPad.
And in terms of going to these art shows, we know that you're coming into Ann Arbor from otherwise across the nation. You're going to different art shows all throughout the nation, all throughout the summer and throughout the year to present and to sell your art. What do you hope when people are going to these art fairs and as they're interacting with you, as they're patronizing your business and buying your art, what do you ultimately hope that they take away from your art?
Oh, for me, happiness. I mean, I know it sounds like really silly, but for me, having somebody come into the booth and have sort of like a very genuine reaction to it, laughing, giggling, shrieking sometimes. It's very gratifying to have people experience it. And then, if they're in a position to purchase something and take it home, it's great. Out of thousands of artists there, they chose me to make, the purchase for that day. So, it's special. And then people, of course, they collect over time. And, we have customers that, for us, we've had customers that have, passed on to even their children at this point, because we've been around a minute. So it's an awesome feeling.
You can see all their art and follow along with them for more information on alongthelines.art and learn more about them, as well as hundreds of other artists across so many disciplines that you'll see at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair, July 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Jen, Kenny, thank you both so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Alongthelines.art is their website. theannarborartfair.com is the website to go for more information on this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair. Thursday, July 20th is the kickoff, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Same timing on Friday, July 21st, with the art fair wrapping up Saturday, July 22nd, 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. on the final day in late July. Just a few weeks away, and we'll be joined each and every week along the way by a different artist from the Ann Arbor Art Fair to give you a preview and a little bit of everything that you're going to see at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair. You can also follow along with them on their social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook, it's at Ann Arbor Art Fair. Twitter, it is at Ann Arbor Art Fair. And Instagram, also Ann Arbor Art Fair, theannarborartfair.com, the place to go for more information. That is going to do it for this Monday edition of the Megacast. Big thank you to each of our guests for joining us on today's edition of the program. If you're just tuning in and you've missed us, you'll always be able to find us throughout the afternoons, evenings, weekends, and forevermore on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find links to all of our partnering stations, which include more original programming in our hometowns, all about your hometowns each and every day. Huge thank you as well to our crew, Rich Miller at the studio of Civic Center TV, facilitating us on the air today, and our director, Jared Clark, on the program, making everything happen from Troy, Michigan. Till next time, I'm Tyler Kieft. Take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.